Hello everyone, welcome to the Daily News Protocol of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis contributed by Vishnu IAS Academy. Today we are going to see the news articles for the date 25th April 2022. So before starting our discussion, a quote is murmuring in my mind. That is nothing but nothing is perfect, hence only the pencils have erasers. If we can understand that quotation deeply, there is nothing such that called as perfect and perfection. In our journey to achieve our goals, whether it is related to career or related to our jobs or exam preparation and all, we will go through that journey to arrive at perfection, but there are some alternatives to that, having an eraser. So with that, try to focus on to correct your mistakes and move forward and to travel towards the perfectionism. Having a knowledge of that, let's get into the discussion of today. These are all the listed articles to be discussed for today. In our first topic, we will discussing about the polio eradication and all the possible outbreaks and the virus varieties, and all those topics we will be discussing. And also next is regarding the judgment to remove any forcible encroachments, as we are seeing some these unlawful encroachments, removal of these unlawful encroachments. And also under the fact we will see the village Palli, and later on we will see regarding the Naga tribes and their folk dances. Moving into the discussion, our first topic to be discussed for today is nothing but floundering polio eradication. Is polio eradication is a tough task in India. So to understand that, let us go deeply into some possible struggles under the polio virus and polio disease. So in that scenario, there are two such recent news which will fear us of arriving some polio outbreaks. So in that, our first news of that is that the wild polio virus type 1, the WPV1, is imported to India from Pakistan. It is the recent news. And also there is another news that a polio outbreak in Israel is caused by circulating vaccine derived polio virus type 2. That is not type 3, sorry, it is type 3, which was outbreak spread from the Israel to India. Okay, so it is nothing but the CVD-PV3, circulating vaccine derived polio of type 3. Okay, so learning these news regarding the polio, we hear that we have achieved the polio eradication completely, but there are such other new outbreaks are arriving in other countries, and there are threats to India also of those, the spread of those outbreaks. So in that backdrop, let us see what is the CVD-PV3. That is nothing but circulating vaccine derived polio virus type 3. So if we see that, generally in our houses, and we see that the polio virus is incorporated orally. We adopted that mechanism to incorporate the polio virus in India. We will see the details of that in our coming discussion. So under the OPV, the virus, when a virus in oral polio vaccine de-attenuates by mutations, acquiring transmission efficiency and neurovirulence, it is called the CVD-PV. What is the meaning of this? The OPV is nothing but OPV or IPV, injected polio virus or orally injected polio virus. Those are nothing but the vaccine will be derived by an attenuated vaccine. So if we can see that any attenuated vaccine culture can be formed into a suspension that can be used as a virus. Under such circumstances, the attenuated vaccine is a vaccine prepared from live viruses. It is the live virus, nothing but the attenuated, means it is weakened in its strength. Why? Because its virulent nature will be suppressed, but the motivation, the capability to motivate the immunity of the host will sustain there. So that is the main feature of the attenuated vaccine. Let us see the definition. Attenuated vaccine is a vaccine prepared from live viruses cultured under adverse conditions, leading to loss of their virulence. It is the virulence is nothing but the capacity to cause the disease that can be lost due to the treatment of that vaccine under the adverse conditions like high temperatures and highly powerful chemicals and all. With all those treatments, the virulence character will be lost of that virus, and but the retention of their ability to induce protective immunity. But that attenuated vaccine will have the ability to induce the immunity. So that is the main mechanism and concept behind the attenuated vaccines. Here comes the problem. Why? Because this is the virus not killed completely. If that type of attenuated virus is not stored in a proper conditions, proper cold conditions, that virus will get activated again, and it can produce its next generations and offsprings, and also it will develop that virulent character again. So that is the serious drawback of these attenuated vaccines. So hence the storage of those attenuated vaccines is very crucial and very much important. So because of some mistakes of that storage of those attenuated vaccines are causing this type of diseases. That is nothing but we can see the circulating vaccine derived. It is nothing but it is not derived by the virus naturally, but it is derived by the vaccine, induced by the vaccine. Why? Because we are using here the attenuated vaccine, which can again come into life, and it can again get that virulent character and those capabilities. So hence the CVD-PV3 can be that much virus which was arrived because of the de-attenuation. Here we have done the attenuation of virus. We weakened that virus, but now because of the wrong processes of those storages of that vaccine, it will de-attenuate again by mutations and acquiring transmission efficiency and neurovirulence. Here it acquires the virulent character again. So that's how we know that we mistakenly incorporate and insert that virus to the kit, but that vaccine is not the attenuated and inactivated, but it is the active virus, so that it will cause the polio disease. That is nothing but called as the CVD-PV, circulating vaccine derived polio virus. So hence it is the serious problem of the OPV viruses, oral polio viruses. So in this backdrop, let us see what is the polio. Okay, we have seen such a case scenario of that danger that is going to occur because of the OPV. Now let us see the basic facts of polio virus. It is nothing but a disease caused by the polio virus. Scientifically it is called as poliomyelitis. We know all these facts already, right? Let us revise those facts for some time. It spreads through the contaminated food and water. How the polio spreads? It spreads through the food and water on any direct contact with the patient, with the fecals of that patient, and with any droplets coming out of that patient with cough or anything, any direct contact. With all these scenarios, the polio virus will get affected, and it will affect the nervous system, and also it weakens the muscle system. So that's why the motor activities of our muscles of the human body will get affected. That's why a leg or body or a hand or motor activities of a patient will get affected, and it will cause temporary or permanent paralysis. There will occur two types of paralysis, temporary and permanent. In many cases, the polio can be treated completely. We have those experiences also. The polio could have treated completely also. But in rare cases, in some rare cases, this polio virus will affect and cause the permanent paralysis, by which the patient will become permanently handicapped, disabled. Okay, so that is the main scenario. So, if we can see the polio vaccines, because of this serious and permanent symptoms of this polio will cause sometimes deadly also. It will cause deaths also sometimes, and it will affect the brain muscles and neck muscles also. So that's why the danger of that polio virus can be curtailed with the implementation of such a vaccines. So we have developed such vaccines. Those vaccines are nothing but two types. The inactivated polio virus given by injection. It is important. It is, please note here that it is inactivated. The IPV is inactivated. We will see the difference. And also we have already seen that the OPV, the weakened polio virus given by mouth. So what is the difference between these two? OPV is nothing but, as we had discussed already, it is the weakened vaccine. Here we don't kill the vaccine, but we will weaken that virus. We will suppress the virulent character of that virus. But here in this case, the virus will be killed completely. So hence the remained particles of that virus will be injected into the body of the patient. So that's why with those particles our immune system will get activated. So here there is not at all a possibility to regain the virulent character. Why? Because here the virus is killed completely, so that it cannot get de-attenuated again, it cannot get that virulent character back again. So there is no such issue of the storage parameters. Any mistakes undertook under the storage parameters. So that's why the IPV is very safe. But the process to implement such an IPV viruses is very costlier, is very expensive. So that's why any rich countries like developed countries are following and incorporating that IPV vaccine. But some countries like India and developing countries are moving forward with the OPV. So from here onwards, let us see the details of CVD-PV. As we have seen earlier, it is nothing but the circulating vaccine derived polio virus. It is a form of the vaccine virus that has reverted to cause poliomyelitis. As we have seen earlier, it was the reverted vaccine. And also it has led to the development of novel oral polio vaccine type 2, NOPV2, which aims to make the vaccine safer and thus stops further outbreaks of CVD-PV2. So hence, because of the serious occurrences of this disease, there was developed the novel oral polio vaccine type 2. The new vaccine was developed. So to avoid such CVD-PV2 outbreaks. And also, if we can see any eradications of polio till now, the polio virus is eradicated, and there were put such targets under the World Health Organization and also by the several governments of several states and countries. So if you can see that scenario, it was targeted to achieve the complete polio eradication was targeted to achieve by the year 2000, which was decided in the year 1988. And also the WHO, the World Health Organization, undertook this task assigned by the resolution of WHA, World Health Assembly. What is World Health Assembly? It is nothing but a forum of ministers of health of all the member nations. So it gave that resolution based on which the WHO has put such targets to eradicate the polio completely. So now there is such an organization called Rotary International. It has launched its Polio Plus project in the year 1985 to provide polio vaccines to under 5 children. The scenario was decided from here onwards. the polio vaccine is decided to incorporated to the children under 5 of all developing countries before the 2005. It was also the main program and objective decided to eradicate the polio completely all over the world. So, it is the history of the polio eradication. So, in that scenario, if we can see the works and objectives of the or scope of the WHO, it has 6 regions to be focused. Among those 6, the America, Europe and Western Pacific. These 3 areas are rich enough and they could eliminate that polio independently, autonomously, not depending on the WHO or any other external organization. So, they could have they could achieve that target by the year 2000 independently. And three areas were done here, right? And coming to the other 3 areas, that is nothing but the southern arc, consisting of the areas Africa, Eastern Mediterranean areas and the Southeast Asia. These 3 areas are comprises of many developing areas and underdeveloped countries. So, hence here occurs the need of the World Health Organization to implement such a polio eradication drives. So, hence the WHO is revising their targets for every 4 to 5 years. Even if WHO works very hard, these countries couldn't have eliminated this polio till now. And the targets are being revised for every 4 to 5 years, and the recent target to eliminate the polio completely is the year 2026. It is the history till now and the sequence of those elimination scenarios of polio till now. And if you can see the details of these IPV and OPV. So, there is a slow pace in WHO in eradication of polio. Why? Why? Because the WHO has to focus more on these developing countries because of the occurrence of the newer outbreaks of those new viruses and the occurrence of like viruses like CDV, PV2 and 3 and type 1 and type 2 and so many. There are so many occurrences and arrivals of new viruses. So, hence to tackle all those, a new steps should be taken. So, India conducts 1 annual national and 2 subnational pulse immunization campaigns under the BOPV. That is nothing but the bivalent OPV. Why? Why India has chosen the bivalent OPV? OPV is oral polio virus, right? Vaccine, right? So, bivalent is nothing but a combination of type 1 and type 3. Why? Why India had avoided the type 2? Why? Because if you can see the details, the wild polio virus 2 was eradicated in the year 1999. And also if you can see the details of that type 2 virus, the CVD-PV2, that is nothing but the circulating vaccine derived polio virus 2 is also caused and the outbreaks right from the year 2006. And hence that forced to incorporate BOPV but not the TOPV. TOPV is nothing but the trivalent oral polio vaccine from the year 2016. Hence, to avoid such outbreaks caused by the type 2 vaccine and type 2 virus, you could understand the difference between these two, right? It is the natural and first initiated vaccine. Again is the wild type polio. See, under the polio virus, we identified 3. Those are nothing but the 3, 2, 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We have 3 such types under the polio virus initially. Those are nothing but called as wild polio viruses, wild polio vaccines. And under that, the second one is eradicated in 1999. But a type of CVD-PV2 was arrived with that vaccination. We have seen the scenario of this, right? The CVD-PV2 is caused because of the de-attenuation the again acquiring of the virulent character again because of the lack of proper storage parameters. So that's how it caused the new outbreaks. So that is the risk occurred with the type 2. So that's why the incorporation of the type 2 vaccination was skipped and not implemented. So that's why we have switched towards the BOPV, but not the TOPV from the year 2016. So I hope you understood that why we have switched towards the BOPV. And also the WHO experts recommended 1 dose of IPV. It is the inactivated polio virus. We have studied that IPV is the safer. Why? Because inactivated vaccine is the killed vaccine. It is a type of vaccine through which the virus cannot get that virulent character again. I am saying this repeatedly to eliminate any confusion among you. So that's why try to focus here. The WHO experts recommended 1 dose of IPV at 14 weeks of age to mitigate further risks of CVD-PV2 outbreaks. Okay, so if we can incorporate the IPV instead of OPV, we can eliminate such outbreaks, right? How this outbreak would occur? Because of the OPV only, right? So that's the recommendation given by the WHO. Okay, OPV is here the weakened polio virus which can attain the virulent character again. Okay, and it is, but that was too little, as more countries continue with the CVD-PV2 outbreaks than have the WPV type 1. So as many countries are already having those outbreaks, this recommendation has gone into vain. As already outbreaks are occurred, we can't incorporate that type of vaccines, right? Vaccine is nothing but the prevention of the occurrence of any disease or outbreak. So that is the reason behind this. And the wild virus type 3 was globally eradicated in the year 2003. It is also most important fact to be noticed that type 3 is also globally eradicated in the year 2012. The type 2 is eradicated in the year 1999. And vaccine virus type 3 had to be removed for avoiding VAPP. Now let's see the word VAPP. What is VAPP? It is nothing but the vaccine associated paralytic polio. It is nothing but caused by OPV. The CVD-PV, whether it be type 2 or type 3, is the one of the procedure, one of the type of disease occurred under the category VAPP. VAPP is nothing but the vaccine associated paralytic polio. Okay, don't get confused here. The CVD-PV is a part of the VAPP, the whole category of VAPP. It is nothing but caused by OPV. As we have discussed earlier, it is caused by the again de-attenuation of that oral polio virus. And it is the vaccinated VAPP caused by type 3, and also unvaccinated VAPP is caused by the type 2 vaccine. It is important. Why? Because let us assume that scenario that a child is vaccinated with the type 3 vaccine. Okay, initially a child is vaccinated with the type 3 vaccine, but that type 3 vaccine is not a proper one, and it is a OPV, and it is not stored properly. So because of that, it get de-attenuated again, and that vaccine got that virulent character again. Hence, that child got the polio disease. So that is the first case, the vaccination, through the vaccination. Now this child went to the school or mingled with other friends, and this child is having disease because of the incorporation of the vaccine, will be act as a vector, and as having those viruses in his body, he will spread to other unvaccinated kids. So that is the second scenario. So the unvaccinated VAPP is caused mainly because of the type 2 vaccines. So to avoid such VAPP, rich countries immunize children with the IPV. As we have discussed earlier, the inactivated polio virus is incorporated by the rich countries. So, as a way, after seeing all this discussion, we can conclude that there are risks for this VAPP polio. That is nothing but the vaccine associated paralytic polio, through which any vaccine derived polio virus can occur. So, to eliminate all those, we should there are some possibilities to move toward the IPV from the OPV. Okay, why? Because the IPV is the more safer vaccine than the OPV. So, hence it could be a best way forward if developing countries like South African countries or underdeveloped countries like South African and developing countries like India and all, if they can move towards the IPV injections and IPV vaccinations, any outbreaks such that CVD, PV or VAPP can be avoided. And also with that, the complete eradication of polio can be achieved completely. So, with having such a good way forward and discussion, let us move forward into our next discussion. That is nothing but the understanding the Olga Tellis judgment. What is it? It is nothing but regarding the encroachments. Any encroachments of any payment dwellers or any trespassers, those unauthorized encroachments can be, whether they can be removed by the authorities or not. The discussion goes on this main line. So, how is the judgment relevant to the anti-encroachment drive in Jahangirpuri? We have seen that from so many onwards, so many days, like from last 1 month and few days, there were anti-encroachment drives were being done in the place Jahangirpuri. Very much human activists and the victims and so many groups and authorities are protesting against such drives. But the authorities and the government officials are saying that we have the power to eliminate any such unauthorized encroachments. So, in that scenario, if we can see whether the government action is correct or they should think any other alternatives. If we can see any Supreme Court judgments in that scenario, there comes the importance of the Olga Tellis judgment. It is nothing but a judgment, the Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation judgment that was occurred in the 1985. It has ruled that eviction of payment dwellers using unreasonable force without giving them a chance to explain is unconstitutional. It was the judgment given in the year 1985 itself. It is clearly saying that any unreasonable force or without giving them any chance to explain is unconstitutional. It is a violation of their right to livelihood. There was already a judgment under this, but how can those encroachment can be supported? Why? Because there is a clause. Moving forward, we will see that in detail. If you can see, the expert court ruled that the pavement dwellers live on filthy footpaths out of sheer helplessness and not with the object of offending, insulting, intimidating or annoying anyone. Not left with any other choice, they would go to that choice to dwell in those payments. So, to support them, the Supreme Court reasoned that eviction using unreasonable force without giving them a chance to explain is unconstitutional. So, let us see why this is going to happen. What are those pavement dwellers and what are those trespassers? There is a difference between these two groups. The trespassers are nothing but they have some choices to better choose their livelihood. But out of the negligence or out of the intention of forcing someone else, they are going and inhabiting in some other places without any permission. It can be considered as a heinous crime or punishable crime. But here, if we can consider the pavement dwellers, those are the dwellers who can live, who construct their small huts on the footpaths and pavements and in the public assets. Why? Because not left with any other chance to live. And also they go to the some harshy areas and slum areas, but not force any others and not go into any other's territory without any permission. But exception to that is not that they go into the public assets only. So hence here we can consider that the trespassers can be punished with such a stringent laws, but the pavement dwellers actions can be reconsidered, and the state, being a social welfare state, can find any other choices to give them any alternatives of livelihood. Here if we can see, the right to life includes the right to livelihood as well. Under the Article 21, they will attain, any citizen of India will attain that right to life, and as they earn a meager livelihood by living and working on footpaths, a welfare state and its authorities should not use its powers of eviction as a means to deprive pavement dwellers for their livelihood. So in that scenario, as we have the guidelines of DPSP to have a directive principles of state policy, to have a welfare state, it could be a best way forward to find for any alternative mechanisms, to find any solutions to such a problems. And also recently the Supreme Court has raised two important questions. Those are nothing but, the main question is that whether eviction of a pavement dweller would amount to depriving him of their livelihood. That was guaranteed under the Article 21 of the Constitution. That was the major basic question to be questioned ourselves. Why? Because we have right to life under the Article 21 in the Constitution. That is of course guaranteed to all of the citizens. So hence here the judiciary is questioning. And also the second question is that whether provisions in law allowing statutory authorities to remove encroachments without prior notice was arbitrary. Here the court is asking the authorities to re-examine the scenario whether the removal of encroachments is going to the arbitrary actions. And also court is suggesting here that to exercise such powers as an exception and not as a general rule. So hence, as understanding the main backdrop of suggestion of Supreme Court, we should consider these two scenarios. The eviction processes should be considered in any exceptional cases, but not in a general, not as a general rule. And also any evictions or depriving those victims or dwellers is questioning any right of life of them. So after seeing this discussion, what Article 21 is saying? Let us see the Article 21. It mandates that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. So hence there should be a procedure established by law should be followed to give such a Article 21 and the right to liberty, right to life. So under that, if we can see any procedure already established in India, we have such a act in India. That is nothing but the Bombay Municipal Corporation Act 1888. It was also studied if allowing the removal of encroachments without prior notice were arbitrary and unreasonable. The act of in that context is also being studied to examine any arbitrariness of those acts and those eviction processes, to promise the right to liberty under the Article 21. So hence finally the court emphatically objected to authorities treating pavement dwellers as mere trespassers. So hence as we have seen the difference between the trespassers and the pavement dwellers. These are the mere victims not left with any other choice but to encroach those areas. But the trespassers are with such an intention to inhabit any other's place intentionally without any permission. So such trespassers can be punished, but those pavement dwellers can be examined again if there can be availed any other alternative welfare mechanisms. Oh, okay. So they are compelled by inevitable circumstances and are not guided by choice. This line is very important and catchy of all this discussion of this topic. Those are compelled by inevitable circumstances. They are not left with any other circumstances to choose for their life, but and are not guided by any choice. So hence, the state, being a welfare state, can find any alternatives to give them any livelihood alternatives under any incentives, any initiatives under the governments, but not evicting them forcefully. Okay, this can be a best way forward. So hence, after learning all this, the Jahangirpuri evictions can be considered in this scenario, whether they are the trespassers or the pavement dwellers. If they are the pavement dwellers, the state can suggest any alternatives considering the Supreme Court judgments and suggestions. But if they are the trespassers, they can be punished as per the procedure established by law or as per any already established acts or laws. So, with this way forward for this discussion, let us move into our next news article. That is nothing but a prelims fact of the day. It is regarding the Puli Village. Puli Village is of a Samba district of Jammu and Kashmir. It has become the first panchayat in the country to become carbon neutral and fully powered village under the solar energy. It is the recent news to be noticed. The Puli village became a model village of all the nation to undergone such a completely powered solar energy. And also all its records have been digitized. All the records of this have been digitized and the benefits of all the central schemes are available in that village. Okay, and if 500 kilowatt solar plant is inaugurated in that village recently, and the Puli village is like a living example to the Glasgow Pledge. What is the Glasgow Pledge? It is nothing but a pledge undertaken under the Glasgow Climate Change Summit that was conducted under the COP26 Conference of Parties in the year 2020. So, under the goals of those Glasgow Pledge to move towards the sustainable and renewable energy sources, this Palli village is becoming like a living example to that scenario to make India carbon neutral nation. Okay. So, with this fact, let us move on to the next news article, fact of the day, Nagas. There is a small article in the newspaper regarding this. So, hence we are here to discuss some few facts of these Naga tribes. Nagas are the ethnic groups native to the northeastern India and the northwestern Myanmar. And also to promote intergroup interaction, the government is recently organized the festival called as Hornbill Festival in the year from the year 2000. Okay, it is also important, it is a previous year question. And if you can see any ethnic groups, a major Naga ethnic groups, that those are nothing but the Konyak tribes. These Konyak tribes are the largest tribes of the Naga tribes. Okay, so after learning all these cases and discussions, we are here to end our discussion for today. It is interesting discussion, right? Let us meet in another interesting session in the tomorrow class. Okay. Signing off. Thank you.